Good evening and welcome to Messages of Hope. I'm your host, Jill Lublin. I'm the author of 3 best-selling books, Guerrilla Publicity, Networking Magic, and Get Noticed, Get Referrals. Tonight, I want to share with you another great message of hope, and that is with our inspiring guest, Marci Shimoff. Marci is the author of the best-selling book, Happy for No Reason, and, well, a tremendous amount of Chicken Soup for the Women's Soul books, and we'll let her tell you about that. Welcome, Marci.
Thank you. I'm happy for great reason to be here with you tonight, Jill.
And I think that's the thing I love about you. But before we even go to this one, I want to talk about the, if I may, the chicken soup experience, because frankly, a lot of people know it. And would you tell us some of the books you've actually written in terms of what you've done?
I have been very fortunate to have been the chef on a number of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And by the way, for the few people who've never heard of Chicken Soup for the Soul, these are not cookbooks. The Chicken Soup for the Soul books are books of true, inspiring stories that touch the heart and rekindle the spirit. And Jack Canfield, who's the originator of this series, along with his business partner, Mark Victor Hansen, created the Chicken Soup for the Soul brand. But Jack was my mentor, and I came up with the idea of Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul. I was speaking to women's audiences, and it was clear that women wanted to hear stories about other women. So I approached him with the idea of Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul, and he loved the idea. He called up his publisher loved the idea, and that was the birth of the rest of the brand that's now grown into 150 books in the series.
And how many books have you sold?
I've sold
amazing.
13 million books.
It's amazing.
It really is. It was, and I wasn't an author.
So how does a nice girl like you sell 13 million books? I mean, no, seriously, to me that would be part of what makes you happy for no reason. But how do you create your life like that to be so blessed?
You know, I learned a while ago, a long time ago, a formula from a mentor of mine, Bill Levesey. And it's a 3-step formula for creating in your life. And the 3 steps, I love them because they rhyme and they're easy to remember. They're intention, attention, and no tension. You've got to have your intention clear on what you want. You've got put your attention on that, your thoughts, your words, your feelings, and your actions. And finally, you need to go into a state of no tension. You need to relax, let go. And I have to say that the way Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul came to me and getting to sell 13 million books was honestly from those 3 steps.
Wow.
I was clear from a young age that I wanted to speak and inspire many people. I saw my first professional speaker when I was 13.
Wow. Did you want to be a speaker
Zig
then?
Ziglar. It was in 1971. Have you've heard Zig Ziglar?
Yes, he's wonderful.
He's great. He's a classic. He was a legend. And I was 13. I said, that's what I'm supposed to be when I grow up. I went home and told my parents, and they were a little disappointed. My dad was a dentist, and they wanted me to be a dental hygienist.
Well, what did you go tell your parents? I want to be a speaker.
I said, I want to be a speaker. And back then, there weren't people who were speakers.
Right.
But my mom teased with me. She said, honey, you sure talk enough. You might as well get paid for it. So I pursued that path. I became a professional speaker. I put my attention on it. My intention was clear, was to inspire millions of people around the world. I put my attention on it. I was doing a lot of speeches, and I was working very hard, but frankly, Jill, I hit up against a brick wall. And it was 1994, and I was working really, really hard, but I wasn't, I had accomplished a lot in my career, but something wasn't happening on the big global scale that I had wanted. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. They work hard, they persist, they put in a lot of effort, but then they hit up against a brick wall. That's when you need the step number 3 in that formula, which is no tension. I decided I wasn't getting anywhere. I needed to just let go for a little bit and relax. And I went on a 7-day silent meditation retreat. Now, I hadn't been silent for more than 2 hours in my life before that. But I did this retreat, and on the 4th day, in the middle of total silence, in the middle of a meditation, a light bulb went off in my head, and it said, Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul. And as soon as I saw those words, I said, oh my God, that's it. No one had thought of any other book besides the original book. It was the first one thought of. So I feel as though it was a combination of my intention being clear to inspire millions of people. My attention, I paid my dues. I'd done my homework. I was prepared. But finally, no tension. I had to let go and allow the universe or the inspiration to flow through to me. And it was really in that state of letting go, of no tension, that it all came together.
Okay, it sounds good in theory, but
Yeah.
let me just ask the tough
Sure.
question. That is, you felt up against the wall. I'm sure our viewers might, at different times feel like, I just can't do anything more. There's something's not working, and you're telling us to actually let go of that tension, which seems to be the opposite of what we all think we should do. Keep going, go straight ahead. It sounds good, but really, what do you do when you're just going, this doesn't feel right, I can't get anywhere, nothing's working for me,
Right.
and I'm feeling hopeless.
Right.
Or I'm feeling like struggling.
Yeah. Well, there are two things. And I think it's a real art to determine when you're just quitting too soon. Because, of course, we've all heard the stories about you just have to go one step further and you'll get to your goal. And when you're struggling uphill against something that you just need to relax for a minute and allow your good to come to you. So I think that there's a real art in determining which is which. And only you know the answer to that. But what I generally find is that most people are either really good at the persistence part and really bad at the relaxing and letting go part, or else they're really good at the relaxing and letting go part, they're easygoing, but they're not as good as the persistence part. So it's good to know which one you are, and then know your tendency. And for me, it's almost always that I need to just relax a little bit more and let go and allow the good to flow in.
Right, that super performer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, I can relate to that, and
Yeah.
I think many people can, and that's part of it. I love that part about, though, know which one you are, because that makes a world of difference. Now, I know with Happy for No Reason, you were lucky enough to be interviewing what you call the Happy 100, which I think is a great concept, and these are people who are happy for no reason, right? Would you tell us some stories? Who are these people?
Well, first let me just tell you how this book came about, Happy for No Reason, because I think that that's relevant to people too. I did not win the happiness jackpot at birth. I came out of the womb with existential angst. And,
What's that look like,
yeah,
fresh out, baby?
It's not a pretty picture. You remember in first grade, you take the first grade pictures and all the kids have a big smile on their face, and then there's one kid in the corner that's kind of got this gloomy look. I was the gloomy look kid.
Wow.
But I was very lucky, and I was very lucky because I had a father who was the happiest person I'd ever met.
The dentist, right?
My father, the dentist, exactly. He passed away a couple years ago at age 91, but every morning he woke up with a smile on his face, and his motto was, every day that I'm breathing is a good day. So I got to see that modeled when I was growing up, and I remember one day I was about 19. We were driving down the road. I looked at him and I said, so Dad, what's your best advice for life? He looked at me and he said four words. He said, honey, just be happy. Well, I was so frustrated by that answer. I just threw my arms up into the air. I said, Dad, that's so easy for you to say. You were just born that way, but I wasn't. What do I do? And he looked at me and he said 4 more words. He said, honey, I don't know. So
that's a big answer.
It was true. And I decided at that moment I was going to find out the answer to that question for myself. What could I do to be happier? What could you do to be happier? And what could anyone do to be happier? So
at 19, you decided?
At 19, that was my real passion. And I've spent the last 31 years, which makes me 50 for those people who are doing fast math, finding out the answer to that question. And truly, we live in a thrilling time because for the first time in human history, science is cracking the code on happiness. We now know what it takes to be happier. And so what I did is I took all of the scientific research that's out there and I compiled that along with all of the wonderful tools and techniques that are available for us to help raise our happiness set point, is what it's called. And then I incorporated some personal stories from these Happy 100 that I interviewed. Because I know that people need inspiration from hearing stories. I know a lot of people like the scientific research that verifies it all. And then we need the tools. What do I do tomorrow to raise my happiness level?
Now you talk about a happiness set point.
Yeah.
So what is that?
So this was one of the most amazing pieces of the research. We all are born with a happiness set point. You know, a lot of people are familiar with the idea of a weight set point, that you tend to
You
hover
mean those
around
20
the same.
pounds you can never...
That's it. That's the weight set point. Well, similarly, we have a happiness set point that we just tend to hover around no matter what's going on. And 2 cases in point for this are people who've won the lottery. You know, we think that's the golden ticket to happiness. Within 1 year of winning the lottery, people have returned to their original happiness set point. It has made them no happier. Now,
Except for
shocking.
that moment of elation?
You get it
Yeah.
for a couple months.
Yeah.
It lasts a couple months, you know, about enough time to buy the goodies you thought were going to make you happy, and then you discovered it didn't work. Shockingly, the same is true of people who are paraplegic. Within a year, they have also returned to their original happiness set point. We think these horrible, devastating things would destroy us, but in fact, it's the happiness set point that determines our life. So that's the kingpin here. And the happiness set point is 50% genetic. You're born with that. It's 10% and only 10% your circumstances. The rest of it, the other 40%, is your habits of thoughts and behavior, and that's what we can do something about. And what I found is that there are 21 core happiness habits that anyone can practice to raise their happiness level.
So would you tell us maybe top 3 right now? And then,
Well,
then we'll ask about those
okay.
happy 100.
It's hard to say that there's a top 3 because, you know, it's like saying, who are your favorite children? Assuming you had 21 children, in which you probably
No, I don't
need
have
a little
21
bit of the
children.
happiness set point raising. They really range, the habits range from mind habits, mental habits, habits of feeling, habits of the soul, spirit, habits of the body, habits of your work and relationship. So they span a number of different areas, but I'll give you a few. One is gratitude. We have all heard the information about how gratitude really helps us feel happier. Well, there's research about just doing every day for a month, listing down 5 things you're grateful for will raise your happiness set point.
Can you say them out loud too?
Yes, you can. The key is to register the positives. We tend to have what's called a negativity bias. And what that means is that the negative things stick to us like Velcro. I call it the Velcro. A friend of mine, one of the people I interviewed, who's here in the Bay Area also, Rick Hansen, actually phrased this the Velcro Teflon ratio. The Teflon are the good things that come into us. They tend to come in, but they don't stick. They slide off of us like Teflon. The negatives that happen to us tend to stick to us like Velcro. Now, the research shows that we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and for the average person, 80% of them are negative, and those negatives are Velcroed. So let me give you an example. You get 10 compliments in a day and 1 criticism. What do you remember at the end of the day?
The criticism, of course.
Of course. Almost everyone will answer that. What we found with the Happy 100 is that they've reversed the Velcro Teflon ratio. They've learned to register the positives more strongly and allow the negatives to be like Teflon and slide off. So to register the positives, it takes 20 seconds. And that's why it's suggested that you write it down. You can say it out loud, but get into conversation with somebody so that experience of the positives lasts for at least 20 seconds.
Wow. Well, that's a simple thing.
Yeah.
Love that.
Simple.
Okay, give us a couple more. I love this.
Well, I'll give you one that relates to the body. Also very simple. You know, we live in a society where we don't we brag about not sleeping. In 1960, the average person got 8 hours of sleep. Today, the average person gets 6.5 hours of sleep. It's the first time in human history where in just a short period of time, 40, 50 years, such a major habit of being human has changed so dramatically.
Right, needing real rest when we don't get it
We
anymore.
don't get it. The research shows that getting enough sleep is more important for your happiness than your income level or your marital status.
Wow.
So you can actually sleep your way to happiness.
That's good for the lazy ones.
Yeah, it is. It is. But here's a little tip. You know,